ladies and gentlemen. I think it's now evening time officially. You've had a very interesting, insightful day. Loads of sessions right here on the stage. Some of you have had breakout sessions, roundtables. As you can see, we have a very esteemed panel of experts sitting here. So the plan for this session is actually to leave the floor open to all of you. Of course, we have our topic, Planning for 10x Growth, is going to bring together a lot of the conversations that you've been hearing throughout the day. But for this session, you have the privilege of having a lot of access to our CFOs. I'm sure you have a lot of questions, thoughts that have come up from morning till now that you'd love clarified by these kinds of experts. So please feel free. We will be running a few rounds of questions here, but at any point, just raise your hand. We'll get a mic across to you. Let's make this interactive, and this is your chance to really talk to the top CFOs of the country right here on the stage this evening. So on that note, gentlemen, welcome. Such a pleasure to have you here. As our lovely host has said, we're here to talk about planning for 10x growth. Of course, very ambitious plan that every organization across the board, across industries, and we have so many industries represented here right now on the stage. It would be great to get a little bit of insight of what exactly does it mean to you, for your organization as leaders. What does this 10x growth mean to you, and how is it shaping and molding your strategy as a CFO in your organization? So just a little bit of insight to get the ball rolling. Doctor, would you like to start?
This 10x growth, that word itself, the title or the word itself has got a lot of magic. When Grant Cardone has coined it about 10 years back, it did not take off. It's only in the recent past 4 years that people started embracing this concept. Now, what does it mean for an organization is you will have to target 10x. It need not be 10 times, 15 times, 11 times. It's only a number. Then action also has to match that. That's the theme of this strategy. And we have adopted this kind of strategy whenever we targeted growth into a segment where we are already established and doing very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. I think topic is very pertinent, and more so when I come from logistic industry and when all of you are seeing that e-commerce growing leaps and bounds. And in recent past, if you look at it, quick commerce is also facing the similar kind of challenge. So I think coming to the topic, it is nothing but PPT, people, process, and technology. When you talk about people, people is talent. Whether talent, you have required talent to deliver this kind of high growth, whether people mindset is ready to work on it, and whether people are ready to take plunge on that bet. These are the mindset things, and the process part, if you bring in this, which is whether you have scalable processes to deliver or to handle those kind of volumes. And when I talk about this, this is in reference to the logistic business where you have large volumes. When you talk about 10x or 12x or whatever number of x, the fact remains is that each x adds to the volume. Whether your processes are capable enough to handle those volumes. Otherwise, you will not be able to reach your desired vision or goal. Third part, when you talk about technology, but technology obviously, when volumes are there, today it's very difficult to handle such volumes manually. So you need to have enabling technology, and not just technology which is of past, but also of future. Because when you're going to grow faster, you need to keep up speed, transparency, and also ensuring that what you're doing is right, gets captured rightly in the system, so that people and customer have confidence on you. So these are the things which probably play out. The common thread would be, I'm sure, mindset, risk management, and the milestone review, which needs to be done over a period of time, whether you are on path or not, or whether you need to do course correction, all that part of the journey. But basic things are that these three parameters have to be in place to make sure that if you have a vision of 10x growth, that gets delivered. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. We're going to deep dive into a lot of what you've just mentioned. Before that, Jitesh, let's get you in here. And again, what are some of the sort of the key tips and tricks that are shaping you as a CFO when it comes to your role, the growth of the organization, when you take this 10x, as Doctor said, magical number at the helm of your strategy?
So I think as a CFO, it is helping me think through differently. It is helping me move out of my comfort zone. I think one of my friends said, gave a cricket analogy. I will pick up saying a aero analogy. I think I am being not a passenger in that plane. I am a co-pilot now. At the same point of time, if a CFO is not testing the market these days, I hope he's not enjoying the conversations with his customer. That gives him a lot of insights to understand what a 10x could look like. So I think CFOs are involved now in discussions like marketing or a customer product fitment, what these discussions are all about. So that is really, really helping us think through differently.
Thank you. Mark?
For me, 10x means, it's all about growth mindset. Okay, so whether it is 10x or more or less, it depends on the industry that you play. Why I said mindset is that if you have a mindset to grow, you'll grow. If you don't have a mindset to grow, you'll always give reasons as to why you couldn't grow. Growth mindset is an extremely important competency, softer skill one has to have, whether it is a finance profession or any other profession. Someone has an aspiration to get into a senior role, it's important that one possesses. No one likes anything which is stagnant. And from growth mindset point of view, or delivering a large growth for an organization, I strongly believe finance plays a very important role. It's possible for a finance person to, decline a proposal, say no to a proposal, but it is also possible for a finance professional to find ways to make a proposal happen, find ways to get a growth happen to an organization. So for an industry like ours, which is a capital intensive industry for tires, growth or a scale plays a very important role, okay, in terms of, getting efficiencies, in terms of distributing our fixed costs on a larger scale, or in terms of, ability to motivate a larger organization and even aim for growth. So it's an extremely important aspect for a leader, and it's very important for finance to play a very active role here.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I can ask everybody to come forward, because I think there are just handful of people now.
Yes,
so
that's a wonderful request. If you don't mind, those seated at the back, if
so
you
it will
could
be easy
come
to
a
have
little
a
bit
better
closer.
interaction, and that's what
You
we
can
want
keep
to do.
walking through even as we continue the conversation, but please do consider coming closer to the front. We'll keep this interactive and loads of questions open to this panelist.
So 10x definitely for me is a very exciting statement, and I know it's not progressive, it is very transformative and challenging as well, but this is a real co-pilot role CFO can play to bring the 10x goal. And it's possible. I think we all know that India has marched towards a journey of becoming third largest economy in the world, and definitely as IT services, I also want to share a good out of that pie and make sure that I can make my company as 10x in few years. I think we have not decided the timeline, but there can be a timeline. There has to be a very, very solid foundation, because it's not just about achieving 10x growth for me, but it is also about sustaining the growth. So there have been companies, all of us know some big names there, I don't want to quote it here, but who reach at some level and then burst. So I also want to make sure that after 10x, we are also able to sustain. When I'm going at 10x, my competition is also going at some x, and definitely I need to continue to grow to retain my position. How I'm doing it today at Niyash Technologies is, one, I'm leading ESG initiative, which is helping me to participate in all large bids. Second, I'm also trying to make sure that all my operations are automated, and with the advent of new technologies like AI, ML, RP, etc., a lot of my processes are automated. And it is helping that all my basic things, my leaders have to spend more time on strategic priorities, customer relationship management, rather than more busy in operational firefighting. 10x also will involve definitely on some strategy around mergers and acquisition, where I'm going to play a very, very important role. So all in all, I think 10x for me is possible and very exciting. Thank you.
Just to add a point, in fact, for those who are not versed with this rule, 10x rule is an outcome of an entrepreneur by name Grant Cardone, who implemented in his real estate business and assured that 10x growth is possible. 10x doesn't exactly mean 10x as with 10 number, it could be plus minus. All what he said in summary of 3-4 lines is, he said you plan 10 times, act 10 times, both have to match, then you'll achieve. Number 2, you need to have unique features for your product solution. Number 3, you need not be the first in the sector or in the product or solution, but you should be the best in that. Then number 4, you need to also commit the resources that is required. Then you will achieve whatever it is, 10, 11, 12. 10 he chose because it's a number what he has proved to the world that he would achieve. He's one of the billionaire and then he's a successful entrepreneur. Must be around 70 now. That's about next.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Again, floor is open to the audience if there's anything you'd like to ask our panelists here. Of course, as we've understood, 10x is not necessarily a number, and you all have strategies in your organizations for growth to a certain extent in whatever time frame it may be. So anything you'd like to ask to the panel, please do just raise your hand. We'll get a mic across. Yes, please. Can we get a mic to this gentleman at the front?
Myself, Rammohan Bhave. I worked in industry for 30 years. I'm giving background for the question to come up. Of which 15 years I was, I think, CFO or finance director. But last 15 years I'm enjoying life as a consultant. So I wanted to ask a question that is, at least in our generation, the chief marketing officer will leave at 3 o'clock saying he has to meet customer. Chief HRO will say, I will leave at 5 o'clock. The production guy will finish second shift and leave at 8 o'clock. But CFO will be there for 18 hours physically and the remaining 6 hours mentally. Is the situation still the same or worsened or improved? Not for you because you CHR also.
Sir, it has remained the same for CFO. For others also it now is matching.
I don't know, but I would like to have answer from all of you.
Interesting, yeah.
I think situation is not so bad now currently. Maybe technology is helping doing things in a much better and faster way. And probably that's where a quality time is spent, relatively lesser time, not to 14 or 15 hours. Maybe it's come down to 10, 12 hours. But with the caveat, if you see in current scenario, the role has only getting addition and there's no deletion. If you look at it, deletion is only by, you are only using systems to do it. That's the only kind of a deletion you may say, but responsibility is not going away. The fact remains is from initially doing finalization to regulatory compliance to, all sorts of digital transformation, and now the latest addition is ESG. So everything is adding on to the table of the CFO. As a result, you still have extended hours, but may not be as much as you are talking about.
Really interesting because
Yeah, a number of things are getting added. That's what I said. There's no deletion from here. There's only addition. Yeah.
Sir, first of all, thank you for being here. I think I have a little different opinion. The split between physical and digital has changed drastically. That's point number one. And I think I really like the way Mr. Kumar put through that. The mindset has really changed. Instead of doing out of those hours a percentage of bookkeeping and accounting and compliances, the ratio has really changed. So instead of that, we are trying to have a conversation about diversifying our business, how my marketing budgets are from a customer acquisition cost looking like. At the same point of time, can I think about expanding revenue beyond a particular territory, geography, or a product line? So that conversation from an intellectual objective is not tiring me up, is my perspective.
Absolutely. But just to say, so hours-wise, we are still ahead of CMO, CHRO, and everybody. Is that true?
With all due respect, if these guys are watching who are my colleagues, so I'll say they are equally putting in those numbers of us.
Okay, so we are equally bad still as a fraternity. Your bosses are not here, right?
No deletion, only addition, as Anil said. Yes. Yeah, Kumar, some
Okay,
perspective.
I'll quickly give a response. In general, finance guys are supposed to be hardworking. I think that's a larger point you made. Over a period of time, initial part of my career, I used to think if you really want to prove yourself to the organization, you should demonstrate that you're a hardworking person. But over a period of time, perspective has changed. I've realized, if you're working hard, if you don't have enough time to the organization, it is possible that the organization or anybody would think the job is bigger than you. Okay, and if you don't have time for your own people, what do you mean by 18 hours, 16 hours of work means? You just don't have anyone to come and interact with you. You're always busy. People will hesitate to come to you. Okay, additional responsibilities will come when the organization or whoever takes a decision feels that you have time to do. Only when then additional responsibility will go. So therefore it is important for us to, even if you are busy, sometimes pretend that you have enough time. And number two, it is not necessary that you are measured based on the number of hours that you have put in. It is also based on the outcome that you deliver. So few times it's important just to switch off your phone. Okay, few times it's better to go on to home, and a little early also there should be few days where you should do it. So that you also get some rest, not only to your body but also to your mind.
But we are diluting the main question. I was referring to the comparison. You are saying
my answer is very
CFOs
similar
are
to
working the
Jitesh.
hardest, I
No, my-
think.
CFO has
This
hardest
question.
time compared to the HR fellows and marketing fellows and
We must have
production
Harmendra
fellows.
in on,
So
at this
I
moment.
understand how one should be efficient. You have great methods, but
Sir, may I attempt to? See, the CFO role is called as a co-pilot role, while other roles are not. I think that gives answer.
Yeah. Great.
He's creating a lot of CFOs in the country. So he's trying to see what do we say when it comes to the appreciation for CFO, for the long hard work CFO is putting.
For me, like apart from my CFO and CHRO, I also manage procurement, legal, digital transformation, ESG. But it's not about the timing. I think it's
That's the
more
right word. You're a
about
CEO.
how you design your organization and make sure, as Kumar rightly said, that what is the outcome you're delivering. So I think that's most important.
And on that note, that's not a question. There are obviously so many challenges that the CFO faces in the organization anyway. Now in this realm that we're talking about, 10x growth, the risk factor of rapid expansion, of course we're talking about regulation, perhaps market saturation, building the right teams, Dharmendra, as you would know very well. These are all added challenges as well. So what are some of your strategies? Well, first of all, what are some of your biggest challenges as CFO?
There are challenges in terms of making sure that you're still able to manage your margins while you're growing. So all those challenges are there, and with the use of technology where you have more real-time insights about which business verticals are doing well, whether inventory, which is more about people for me, is really moving fast. So my utilization is higher. So like target is 80%, I always make sure 85% utilization is always there. So some of those data insights really makes it helpful. And then again, I will go back to organization design where you delegate the responsibility to the P&L owners, wherein they drive the numbers rather than you are driving everything. So then that also makes the things more easier.
Is it challenging to develop a high-performance team to match the 10x strategy goal?
It does. I mean, it's not easy to develop, and more important is to retain. And specifically in our industry, the moment you learn something, you become 2x of your cost, So I think there are a lot of factors to it, but as HR head, I can say that it is also not just the compensation you are paying, but also about the culture of your company. So if you have the right set of culture, you have very defined accountability with the people and giving them a work-life balance, I think people still stick around. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to
Of course. There are challenges, in fact. So it's a fantastic question. There is a lot of insight in the question. You will plan 10x. 10x doesn't happen just like that. You will have to commit resources that are required for the 10x. It could be funds, it could be team. And you will commit these 10x funds, CapEx, OpEx, and team what if you could not sustain the planned or the targeted growth rate? So there is a huge challenge in this. Therefore, while you target 10x, the allocation of the resources, be it funds, be it team, will be in a measured and planned way that you will not recede from the growth what you already achieved using your targeted plan. That's a challenge. You will have a capex of, let us say, 100 billion, and then suddenly the subsequent growth will not sustain. Then the capex will have huge fixed costs. Then the variable cost, whatever you are able to recover, has no meaning. This can be best understood only by us, being CFOs. Management will never understand, and others can never understand, can never imagine at all. Only we will tell, sir, there is a fixed cost which is hanging on our head. We will not be able to absorb it subsequently if you can't sustain this growth. So please understand these two are different. Therefore, let us plan in a reasonable way, in a practicable way. 10, 20 is all good number, but let us see 7, 8 or 14, whatever. That can be done only by a CFO. I can tell it very proudly.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anil, as you mentioned, there's no deletion from your role, only additions, right? So what are some of the added components to the next gen CFO role? What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing? And everyone has mentioned or touched upon in some way the role of technology here. So maybe you can start to take us through that as well.
Sure. So while whatever so far has been said on challenges, that definitely stands. But there's two different perspectives I would like to deal with. One is the challenge which is posed by the ecosystem. Ecosystem meaning you have a geopolitical situation. Whatever kind of plan you may have may get derailed if your supply chain gets impacted because of geopolitical situation. And we've seen in the past the changing scenario on the geopolitical front have had impact. While India may not be directly involved in those in the disputes, but there are impacts of those which comes in. And we have seen that recently the oil thing, which though it was a blessing in disguise that we got it relatively cheaper from Russia, but the fact remains is that had its own impact. Similarly, when you have such kind of impact on movement of things, say certain routes gets impacted, and I'll talk about my industry, the logistic part of it. So sea routes have to be changed, air flying has to change. So obviously that has an impact not only on the deliverables, but also on the cost. So these are the challenges which comes from the outside. Third thing, there could be a challenge which is from unknown quarters, or you may not expect those challenges to come, which is posed by technological advancement. And I'll dwell on it. All of us have seen that earlier many companies have disappeared because they could not imagine some competition coming from unexpected quarters. Like we've seen music industry getting impacted because of mobiles taking over that, the electronics industry and all that. So if that is the case, I think there is a need to continuously keep an sharp eye on the technological changes which could impact your business. And that's where we have seen many recent trends. Like if I am to give you 3-4 things which probably in times to come will also further change for a new gen CFO. Like we have seen fintech evolution. The way we were making payments in the past has changed completely. We used to write checkbooks, etc. Now hardly anybody uses checkbooks. It's all online transfer, wallets, and then host-to-host transfer. So many things have changed, and probably who knows in times to come there would be further change. We keep hearing about blockchain technology. Now that will have much safer, much transparent, and fraud risk mitigated kind of things, which will help CFOs in ensuring that there are less risk. The second thing which we keep hearing about, machine learning and artificial intelligence. We know that today the kind of analytics we can do with the system, with the kind of business information we can get insight from through using GenAI without writing codes. I think that is improving the kind of insights which would be available. That will help faster and better decision in going forward, so that you are well equipped to handle a situation which may or may not have been envisaged when you made the plan. That's point number 2. The third thing, if I had to talk about the environmental thing, which are also impacting, there's a lot more now emphasis being given by investors and various group stakeholders that how are you managing your environment, how much emission you are currently doing, and what is your plan to reduce those emissions. So those are kind of things would have going forward impact on the plan. How much more demand will come? Obviously, time will tell us that how much impact that will have on the businesses. So these are kind of things which probably are going to change things the way we are working. Last but not the least, we recently heard about digital currencies. Cryptocurrencies getting more and more prevalence. The latest one was BRIC. Somebody spoke about that BRIC countries are going to have their own currencies. How that will have an impact on the business. These are new technological products which will come and may have an impact. I think we need to keep an eye on how they develop and how they will have impact on the business. Would be a interesting thing to look at. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing all that. Once again, we're hearing a lot about the challenges that CFOs face, be it geopolitical, technological, etc. If there's any questions you have as the audience about some of the challenges you're facing, anything you'd like to talk to our panelists about, just raise your hand. We'll get a mic across. Is there? Yeah. Can we, excuse me? Guys, can we get a mic? There's a gentleman there and a gentleman here.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, what role did innovation, disruption, and risk-taking play in 10x growth journey? And question number 2 is, when we
Sorry, could you hold the mic a little closer, please? We can't hear you very well, so the whole room can hear you.
Is it better now? Yes. What role did innovation, disruption, and risk-taking play in 10x growth journey? And second question is, when we are talking about, the team, entire team needs to work, the gentleman mentioned that 10x growth required 10x work as well. So how did you maintain your employee engagement and motivation throughout this journey?
So innovation and disruption, I think, go hand in hand. When you innovate something, you definitely disrupt something. And for me, as IT services, innovation is the major differentiator for me to, showcase to our customer, to build the right solution, and also to get more money from my customers. If I'm just selling my regular services, I'm not going to get a big differentiator or big revenue out of it. But if it is like today, I'm focusing more on Gen AI and AI-based solutions so that I can charge a big money from the customer. I have created a very specific Gen AI experience center in 2 of our offices to showcase to our customers. So some of these go hand in hand. I think innovation is very, very critical for existence for a technology company like me.
I'll just add one point. See, 10 years back, even later, in fact, even prior, when Samsung has introduced mobile phone, the camera phone, so around 1,000 plus camera manufacturing companies have died, literally died. I authored an article on Samsung. I was surprised to see 3,000 reads in a day. Why I had to author? I was reading a news stating Samsung is contributing 50% of the growth of Korea, South Korea. It was a shocker to me. We are talking about few companies here, conglomerates, which are contributing hardly 4%, and we are saying they are eating up the whole country. And one company, the Chebol, is contributing 50% of the growth of such a big country, developed country. Then I did a bit of research and was shocked to learn that 1,000 decent-sized companies in the world, which are only into manufacturing cameras, have literally died in a span of 2.5 years. That is the question what sir has asked. What could innovation do? That is the result. So unless one could understand what is happening and innovate, we'll be behind, we'll be dead.
Excellent.
That's the only point from my
Great
side.
answer. Jitesh Kumar, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I happen to know the gentleman who asked the question. So hi Nirav. So Nirav, I think your question was that how they are linked or interconnected to 10x growth. So I think Kumar touched upon, I touched upon, if you don't change your mindset, if you don't have the thought process to think differently, the 10x growth is an uphill. So innovation, disruption, whatever you want to call it as. Now, for a growth like that, if a CFO is not able to convince the stakeholders, investors, or the board to front-load investments with limited, or I would say with some insights on return, that's the risk appetite he will have to build. Now, the areas we are foraying into, whether it is semiconductor, green energy, or whatever you want to call it as from a startup world, there were very, very less data or ROI models available. However, we have still invested into that. So the risk appetite is there. We just need to demonstrate that by, CFO just needs to enable it. So that's your quick answer to question number one. I think I'll allow others to contribute.
I think your second question was if you're embarking your journey in terms of 10x growth, how do you keep your people motivated? Okay, see, growth is an important motivator. Okay, and all of us would like to grow, and so therefore, generally, how do you motivate? I think if you can give career growth to people, linked to some of the milestones relating to 10x growth, people would stay. And if we can link people's work with the larger ambition, okay, the vision of the organization is grow by so, and if you can find a link between what they do, because every individual who works for the company should have a visibility to what we do overall as an organization. So you start from the vision and try to identify however small that person plays a role, okay, and that person would play a role. So therefore, I think it's another important motivator or organization. And the third, also articulating at different points in time challenges, okay, and it's not going to be an easy journey. You know, any growth ambition that you have, it's not going to happen easily. So you're going to face some challenges. In terms of mentoring, preparing people to face failures and how do we help them to recover from them and move on and still achieve the goals are some of the things. But growth itself is a great motivator, and it could reduce the stress levels of the people who are working for the organization in terms of continuity, in terms of their own future. I can go on and on, but I think it's a great motivator.
By the way, 10x growth doesn't mean 10x capex. The strategy itself, the planning itself is keeping certain costs constant or rising them slightly, and how do you maximize or optimize the growth? Of course, your question itself is on the theme.
So I just want to build on what Kumar said. I think I'll add the bridge of a purpose. If you are able to connect the purpose of an individual to the purpose or a mission of the organization, you are sorted with that individual. Secondly, I think he beautifully articulated, if you start empowering more and they start connect the dots to that empowerment to the growth journey, I think you will be able to motivate. So money will be one of the factors, but these two are stronger enough with the support of culture, which you will be able to motivate teams.
I will add a little more, spotlight to that. The fact remains is that when you have such a big journey, you have certain milestones defined over a period of time. So when you achieve those small tasks and milestones, I think celebrate. Whether you win or lose, celebrate. And I'm sure you'll be thinking why you are saying that celebration should be there when you lose. When you lose, at least it gives you some, some learning that, where you failed and why you failed, so that next time when you carry on your journey, you take care of that. So celebrate even if you have a failure.
Wonderful. Positive reinforcement, always important in the organization. Wonderful. We have a question.
But then this kind of celebrations would keep helping, in improving motivation levels. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very wonderful. Yes, sir.
We can't hear you.
Can we get the audio on, please? Just get that mic across, yeah. And in the meanwhile, yeah, what you're, I think, Jitesh and all of you are really focusing on is the culture development in the organization, right? So if you had to sort of summarize, what role directly does the CFO play in ensuring that culture pans through across functions? Because one might think, yeah, perhaps in a role like Dharmendra's, CHRO, CFO, CEO, yes. But what role specifically does the CFO play in the culture?
So I think I have a little difference of opinion here. In leadership team, irrespective of your role, culture will be a shared responsibility. That's point number one. If I think it through from a CFO lens perspective, an inclusive decision.
Hello.
Secondly, appreciating where marketing and commercial teams are coming from the voice of the customer or an NPS score of a customer. And third, if I could say this, not being penny wise pound foolish and demonstrating the older behavior will give a very strong message to the culture.
Yes.
But to add on to that, I mean, it has to be very categorical, you know, like if you want to build a culture of innovation, for example, then as a CFO, I definitely want to allocate a good budget for people to invest, experiment, and do new things, you know. So some of those things will definitely helpful. Like recently we did a big hackathon, invited so many people for people to learn and do new things. So some of these things also have to be added in the budget, you know, when CFO is planning some things. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's get a question in.
Madam, this topic, planning for 10x growth, took me in my memory 5 years back. We were having an analyst meet with Mr. Ati Godrej and his whole family for their company, Godrej Consumer Products Limited, annual March ending results.
I'm so sorry, we still can't hear you. Maybe the other mic works better. Console, can we get... Yeah, you can just hold it close to your mouth.
Yeah. 5 years back, this topic, planning for 10x growth, it took me in my memory 5 years back to an analyst meet with the Godrej Consumer Products where Mr. Ati Godrej and his whole family members were there. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I put up a question to him, okay, sir, you are doing remarkably well in your business. Now, as a head of an organization like Godrej, obviously, every managing director, chairman have a blueprint of growth in their, not boardroom, but in their personal chamber. He says, I am impressed with the question you have asked. I will share the strategy with you. I have set a target, not just for my entire family members here, but for every employee, every associate, every vendor. 10 times growth in 10 years. With this target, I have shifted the focus from any and every negativity to a positivity of growth. This is the proof of an entrepreneur and the secret of success in an enterprise. I thought I will just share this with you.
Thank you. Thank you for that anecdote, yeah?
I'm just saying thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Again, audience, great questions from all of you. Please keep them coming. We still have a few minutes left on the clock. So, gentlemen, of course, we've touched upon, and everyone has spoken a little bit about the role of emerging technology, something we cannot ignore if we're talking about the role of the next gen CFO, 10x growth, and so on. Any real-time examples, case studies that you can share of how implementing AI, ML, and so on, of course, the list is endless, has directly impacted your top line and your growth and expansion of the organization? Please.
I will share, but it's not about the top line. So I come from infra background. So I told you, Beckham Infra. We build dams, barrages, those things. So we read a lot of tender documents. Each tender document running into 900 pages, 2000 pages like that. And the conditions could be built in somewhere and then you can't read the whole of the document in 2 days, 10 days time. So now we are accessing a couple of AI, ML built tools. Most of you must be knowing also, the JP Morgan's Coin and Contra Vault. These are the two things which we are using. Almost equivalent to ChatGPT and Perplex in this side of the world. It reads the whole document in 3-4 minutes and it gives the output in 3-4 seconds. And my tender document guys, tender department guys, will only go through these things and will decide the first MIS. We should not go for this, but for information. We go for this, these reasons. We have heavy competition coming from so-and-so names because their strengths are these. So I found this very, very magical. Because I was a master in reading the legal documents and always used to bully upon them. You missed this clause, you missed that clause like that, to show the power of CFO. And then they used to always be timid. Now the role is reversed. So they are putting a lot of documents before me, which I could not even read and then comprehend so quickly. Because AI and ML are helping them in completing that task. They're also learning a lot from these technologies.
Excellent. Thank you. Great example.
So to add on that, I mean, technology investments are not so cheap at times, but if you are able to showcase to the stakeholders that how it is going to bring the ROI on the table, I think it's easy. Like, for example, when we were trying to automate our accounts receivable function, and I was trying to evaluate different applications, and I know that this RPA application is going to help me a lot, and not just cutting some cost of my finance function, but more importantly, it is going to reduce my DSO even by 1 week, then I'm going to save 5 crores. And I know that within 3 months, I'll get my payback. So, if some of those things you can pilot and do small pilots to start with, I think you don't want to open the whole company and create a chaos. So I think you need to look at the company, what is most critical for your business, and I think you should start picking some of those.
But from the vast array and gamut of solutions out there, Kumar, how do you look at strategizing which tech you want to implement? Again, maybe implementing a pilot to start with, but how do you do that prioritization process as the CFO?
Today, we are facing problems in terms of choosing the technology. We all hear about AI, ML, and we heard about blockchain. I know 2 years, 3 years from now, it'll be even AI has become Gen AI. It'll go on. So only thing which is permanent is that new things will come. Purely from CFO's lens, I think what is the role that a CFO can play is in terms of where to use the technology. I don't think there is any issues in terms of the capability of technology. From our standpoint, for example, a capital-intensive industry like us, okay, and when we had to take some calls with respect to going for something called a lighthouse recognition, which is a globally World Economic Forum recognizes companies who have used Industry 4.0 technology in a particular, say, a manufacturing application and got results. And they recognize few of them in the World Economic Forum. So we applied for it. Happy to share we got for our factories. So when we decided to go for it, I think we could contribute in terms of, can we apply this in critical problems? For a capital-intensive industry, what is the main requirement? How to sweat the assets and get more? So in determining the success of that, can we say, look, if you apply this, our output will go up from X to Y. Another, if wastages are high, can we say that we will measure the success of this when wastage comes from X to Y? Okay, so in this way, instead of understanding what a particular technology can do, can we identify our critical problems and see whether the technology can help in supporting it? So that way, I think CFO can play a role in terms of that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just building on to what Kumar said, I mean, you can look it through the lens of your customer and your shareholder. So as he rightly said, the organizations that worked earlier, while they were selling equipments, they started quickly realizing the potential of a digital solution as well. Can it enable the customer to avoid the maintenances? Can it enable the customer to improve the efficiency of an engine? Can it enable the customer to monitor its asset base across the country sitting out of a place, which reduces the downtime and obviously the operational efficiency? So will I be able to offer that solution with my product? Should I invest in that research and technology? Similarly, from my field teams, can I give them enough insights about the potential of a customer which they are planning to visit in next 1 week? Similarly, how their different product portfolio has been behaving, which product has not been sold for last 30 days and something like that, right? If I can give them those insights and unblock barriers for them, hopefully that technology will give me a better return in a longer term. So from the perspective of a customer and a stakeholder.
And Neil, also you very interestingly mentioned earlier the geopolitical conditions, of course, impacting what your growth story is going to look like. There's unforeseen circumstances across the board. What role, when we're talking about technology, does real-time data and analytics play here? Any examples you can share of how this has impacted an potentially adverse scenario?
Sure. There are certain things which you can, manage if you have timely insights basis the real-time data analytics. So I think if you use technology in a way and which we spoke about earlier, that tells you that if there are alternates available, use those alternates timely manner so that impact to your bottom line is reduced, or your customer experience improves if you reach in timely manner those material which were supposed to be reaching there. So I think these are the insights which a tool can give on a real-time basis. Of course, the input data also has to be equally important. That is sacrosanct, so that you get right output. That matters a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, like when I was looking at exponential growth, I also looked at the data, and then I wanted to reduce the dependency on US, and I know that some of the markets in Middle East are growing, some of the market in Southeast Asia are growing. So, and then in these days with the AI market-driven analytics easily available, I could present it to the board saying that we should better focus on this as well, which will help in growth as well as risk mitigation. So I think that way technology is really, really helpful.
One quick addition. In fact, in the two of your questions you have mentioned very clearly. What technology has done, strikingly, is it has distributed the leadership, which was never imagined 10 years before, 15 years before. Number two, it has distributed the intelligence. It is because of these two functions that across the board, the remunerations or the treatments of all the employees has gone up. That's the benefit what we are seeing from the technology.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Great insight. Thank you to the audience for being so participative. I hope you've gotten your questions answered. If not, of course, maybe some of our panelists will still be around for the last session, so you can catch some of them off stage. Gentlemen, thank you. Such a pleasure. Thank you for taking us through really a blueprint of 10x growth and strategy from the CFO's point of view. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.